today's battle report. This one a 4,500 point game of Orcs and Goblins played by myself against my good friend Silas, who is on the Dread Elves. As always, I will flash up the list so you can pause and take a closer look if you want to, and then we will get into deployment. Map number 5, the deployment type is marching columns, and I would deploy my whole army in one go to get the first turn, and the secondary objective is to hold the ground. So let's just go through the list. We'll start with Silas's. So he's got a unit of Dread Knights with his Dread Prince here. We can ignore this raiding party that will get deleted later. It's there by mistake. There's a Warlock and an Exarch in this militant unit here, unit of Black Cloaks, big unit of auxiliaries with another Exarch, battery, big unit of auxiliaries, Gorgon, 5 Shadow Riders, another battery, another Gorgon and another battery. On my side we'll go left to right, Boar Chariot, Splatterer, big unit of Feral Orcs, Great Green Idol, another Splatterer, unit of Goblins with a Goblin Witch Doctor, Goblin King on a Gargantula, big unit of Iron Orcs with a Feral Orc Shaman, unit of Feral Orcs, a Boar Chariot, and a unit of Raiders. So I'll just flash up the Vanguards and you can have a look at those in a moment, and then we will get into my turn 1. Okay, so there are the Vanguards, moving through the middle with my Raiders and sort of cautiously up the side over here, with the other Raiders, and Silas moving his Shadow Riders kind of across his back line. Right, onto my movement 1 then. Okay, my movement 1 here then, so you can see it's just an advance straight across the board really. Great Green Idol moving sort of sideways, getting into a more sort of central position really. The only kind of interesting point is that the Raiders are positioned here so that they can't be charged by this Gorgon. And everything else I think is quite self-explanatory. That's the end of my movement 1. Okay, end of my turn 1 here then. Fairly decent turn 1. I got 2 spells off in the magic phase. I've got a Chilling Howl off on this battery, which will give -1 shooting to everything within 6 inches. So I'm really hampering the shooting over here. And I've got a Totemic Beast off down here, which has then come on and used its breath weapon to inflict 2 wounds on the battery over here. And then one of my catapults has also done a couple of wounds on the Shadow Riders, but they've not panicked. So that's the end of my turn 1. Okay, Silas's movement 1 here then. You can see that he's brought the Shadow Riders over here to prevent me from getting a charge off on this battery over here, and he's sort of moving assertively up the right flank with his militants and his heavy cavalry, and keeping the auxiliaries largely where they are. That's Silas's movement 1. Okay, on to Silas's turn 1 here then. So he's got Altered Sight off in the magic phase, giving them +1 to hit. And then his battery over here has done 2 wounds on the Totemic Beast. And his Raiders have done 4 wounds on the Goblin here, causing it to panic. And the one remaining Raider is, as you can see, sort of bolted. He's pumped all of his auxiliary shots here into the Feral Orcs, but he was wounding on 6s because of Chilling Howl, and with the 3-up armor save, he's not actually managed any wounds. But the battery here and this auxiliary unit have done a total of 5 wounds to these Feral Orcs over here. And that is the end of Silas's turn 1. Okay, my movement 2 here then. So I've declared 1 charge in this phase, and that was with my Feral Orcs at the Shadow Riders, who were sort of over here somewhere. And this refers to a point that my friend Tim has recently made to me about players making long charges, because why not? If you fail the charge, you're not going to get counter-charged in most cases, and if you make it, then it's great news. So I've gone along with that and declared a charge at the Riders here. Silas has elected to flee, thinking he's got a good distance here, but has actually rolled 2 6s as part of his flee and has therefore run off the board. So that's an unfortunate start for him, and so the Feral Orcs have ended up moving 5 inches forward. So for the loss of 3 inches, I've got a unit of Shadow Riders off the board, so I'll take that. Pretty happy with that. Other than that, a move across the diagonal here, really. Getting into position with the Iron Orcs and the Feral Orcs, maybe declare a war cry next turn and sort of head into one of these units. You can see up in the top corner here, I've claimed the first hold the center token. This is wrong. You're not allowed to do that until turn 2, so we'll correct that later. And the Totemic Beast has got into the battery over here as well. And then, of course, the Raider here is decimated, so his rally is needing like a 3 or something silly like that. I don't think we're going to be seeing him again. And that is the end of my movement 2. Okay, end of my turn 2 here then. Mediocre turn 2 really. Chilling Howl was so effective last time that I've cast it again, so -1 to wound on all the shooting over here still, so that's good. I really like Chilling Howl as a spell. I've also got Swarm of Insects off on the battery as well, inflicting 2 wounds on it. And then the Beast won combat over here, but didn't break the battery. So it's on a knife edge over here now. The question is, can the crew take out the 1 remaining wound on the Beast before it takes off the 1 remaining wound on the battery? So yeah, there you go. That's the end of my turn 2. Okay, Silas's movement 2 here then. So there have been 2 charges. The militants have run into the raiders here, which is absolutely the right move. And then his Dread Knights have gone after the chariot, which has fled. And of course, I've allowed that because the BSB is nearby. So I'm quite happy with that, because that means that the Dread Knights are kind of kept in this corner. They can't see anything for next turn. So I'm pretty happy with that as an outcome. Other than that, Gorgon's moving into position here to chaff these 2 units as well, of course. And that's the end of Silas's movement 2. Okay, Silas's turn 2 here then. He's had a really good magic phase, getting off 3 spells. He cast Altered Sight on the auxiliaries, which I let through. He then cast Unity of Divergence on the Feral Orcs. I expected that. He put 5 dice into it. I put 7 dice into the Dispel attempt. But failed the Dispel attempt. That was annoying. But he only managed 3 wounds, so that kind of balanced it out, I suppose. He also got the Stars Align off as well. Chilling Howl making a massive difference with the Iron Orcs over here, because when you factored in the Chilling Howl and their 3-up armor save, they actually ended up taking 0 wounds, so I was really happy with that. And then the auxiliaries and the battery over here took out 3 Feral Orcs. So starting to put a good dent in this Feral Orc unit now. The battery would finish off the Beast as well, and the militants finished off the Raiders and reformed. And that's the end of Silas's turn 2. Okay, on to my movement 3 here then. So you can see I've played my War Cry up here. And then I've charged at the auxiliaries that were here with the Feral Orcs, who have fled, and unfortunately for Silas, he rolled a double 6, which would just take them off the edge of the board. So that was very unlucky for him. I had anticipated them fleeing, but I didn't think that they would run off the board. And then the chariot over here failed a charge on the battery, but this chariot over here rallied, and the raider, as predicted, ran off the end of the board over here. And then, of course, we've got charges on the 2 chaff units here. Got to get them out of the way. And that is the end of my movement 3. Okay, on to my turn 3 here then. It's been a turn of mixed fortunes, really. I got a Chilling Howl off on the battery that was here. So that would affect the battery and the auxiliaries here. So yeah, another Chilling Howl. I've also brought on a Totemic Summon over here, and that's going to chaff up this unit as well nicely, so that's good. The Gargantula would actually finish off the battery, though, with its shooting, because it moved. It didn't march, and it got 2 6s on the to wound rolls. So yeah, just about did it. The Feral Orcs over here smashed the Gorgon and reformed, and the Iron Orcs smashed the Gorgon and overrun here. But the Feral Orcs over here were utterly minced by the militants, which was to be expected, really. Not sure whether that was the right play. I mean, I did get that auxiliary unit, but I was lucky to get that auxiliary unit. It didn't deserve to run off the board. But I suppose either way they were going to get charged by the militants, and Silas had already put quite a bit of magic and attention into sort of whittling them down. So I suppose it was inevitable, really. So it's really a matter of getting something out of them while they're still alive. But anyway, they've broken and not been caught, so that's something. So that's the end of my turn 3. Okay, on to Silas's movement 3 here then. So there have been 2 charges in his movement 3, charging the totemic beast over here, of course, which he's got to do, and a charge with the militants on the feral orcs, who of course would have to flee, but didn't end up running through the gargantula. They only fled a short distance and were therefore caught with the militants just stopping in front of the gargantula. Now, I don't fancy taking on this militant unit with my gargantula. My gargantula is nasty, but the +1 to hit and the +1 to wound that they get in the first turn is just too much for the gargantula, because wounding it on 5s is a lot different from wounding it on 6s. So anyway, that's what happened there. And then reform over here with the auxiliary is going to try and pin cushion my ferals over here, of course. And the black cloak's kind of turning up on the hill. That's the end of Silas's movement 3. Okay, on to the end of Silas's turn 3 here then. So in the magic phase, he's got off the Stars Align and Truth of Time on the militants, just making them extra buffy. And then his battery over here has taken out the chariot that was kind of threatening it over here. And then the battery and this auxiliary unit between them have done 5 wounds on the feral orcs, with Chilling Howl making quite a difference there again. Then in Silas's combat phase, he's of course taken out the totemic beast over here. And that was the end of Silas's turn 3. Okay, on to the end of my movement 4 here then. So I've got a double charge off against the auxiliaries with what remains of this feral orc unit and the Great Green Idol, which only had to connect with 1 model and therefore didn't take any dangerous terrains because the Iron Orcs were in the way at the time that it connected with the unit. So that was quite handy. I've then reformed the Iron Orcs. I've put my Shaman at this end, so it's going to be able to cast a swarm of insects. I need to take out this cloak unit here, because if I don't, then Silas will have a way to chaff me, and then he can, sort of rearrange these 2 units, and he'll be able to charge at me rather than the other way round. So that's why the Shaman is there. Yeah, that's the end of my movement 4. Okay, on to the end of my turn 4 here then. So in the magic phase, I've got Swarm of Insect off, but 1 Black Cloak has remained, which is very frustrating. The Feral Orcs and the Great Green Idol have beaten the auxiliaries, who have fled. I've reformed with the with the Feral Orcs and pursued with the Great Green Idol, but it's not been able to catch them, but it didn't take any damage from the dangerous terrain in the process, so that was something. And that was the end of my turn 4. Okay, on to Silas's movement 4 here then. So you can see he's chaffing up the Iron Orcs with the 1 remaining Black Cloak. But those of you that are, tactically savvy will have realised the mistake that he's made here. He's brought the Dread Knights too close. And when I charge this Black Cloak, I will only need an overrun of an 8 to run into the Dread Knight unit. So, I mean, 8 is slightly less than 50%, but it's certainly worth a try. So we'll see how that goes later. And then he's just reforming over here with his militants to prevent any flank and rear charges, of course. And that's the end of Silas's movement 4. This is the end of Silas's turn 4. I should have mentioned in the movement 4 of his that the auxiliaries failed their rally test. They were, of course, decimated from the combat and ran off the board. But I'm not going to go back and remake that video clip because I don't have time. So into the magic phase then, and you can see Silas got a bunch of spells there. I think this one is actually not supposed to be there, but he got 3 spells off. Super buffing his militant unit. Very sort of concerned about the prospect of a Chariot and Gargantula charge, which I'm not sure is valid really against a big steadfast unit with 2 attacks per model and fighting extra rank. But anyway, so super buffed over here. No way I'm charging that next turn. And then he's also done 4 wounds on the goblins over here with one of his batteries. And that's the end of Silas's turn 4. Okay, my movement 5 here then. So there have been 2 charges. The Feral Orcs have charged out of the ruins into this battery over here. I think a couple of them died from dangerous terrain in the process as well. And then a charge here, you can just about see him under the flag there on that lone black cloak, who is in a world of trouble. And then other than that, Chariot and Gargantula moving out of the charge arcs of this super buffed militant unit, and the Great Green Idol moving but not marching through the ruins, so it doesn't have to take any dangerous terrains. And that's the end of my movement 5. Okay, end of my turn 5 then. I've got Enveloping Embers off on the militants and done 7 wounds to them. Of course, Unity of Divergence would help with that. One of the splatters, can't remember which one, took out the battery that was down here, and the Feral Orcs took out the other battery. The Iron Orcs missed the overrun by 1 inch. And 1 inch, as we all know, can make the world of difference. So, yeah, they're going to get charged by a unit of Dread Knights with the Dread Prince now. Sad times. That is the end of my turn 5. Silas's movement 5 here then, so you can see that the militants have moved up out of the arc of vision of the Gargantula. Silas is betting that I'm not going to attempt a flank charge on a steadfast unit with a Chariot alone, and he's absolutely right about that. And you can see that the Dread Knights and the Prince have of course charged into the Iron Orcs. So that's the end of Silas's movement 5. So end of turn 5, he got Perception of Strength off on the Iron Orcs, and you can see that the Knights have beaten but not caught the Iron Orcs. We did make a mistake here, it's worth mentioning. We'd got into the habit of sort of saying, you know, hitting on 3s, lightning reflexes makes it 2s. And we actually rolled his Dread Knights as hitting the Iron Orcs on 2s, but they should not have been. They should have actually been hitting it on 3s. But no worries, it is what it is. So Iron Orcs and General in a bit of trouble. That's the end of Silas's turn 5. On to my movement 6 here then, so you can see that the Iron Orcs have rallied, but they are of course going to get recharged by the Dread Knights in Silas's turn 6. Have moved the Great Green Idol up, so they're at least re-rolling 1s when rolling to wound. The Gargantula appears to have moved. I'm not sure whether I declared a charge. I don't think I would have done, because the Crippling Frost would have just caused him so much trouble, so I probably just moved it for the sake of moving it. And that is the end of my movement 6. End of my turn 6 here then. So I've got Break the Spirit off on the Dread Knight. So when they charge me, they will be taking DT2s. All my remaining shooting missed. And that's why I moved the Gargantula to shoot at the Dread Knights. Token shots. But anyway, didn't do anything. So that is the end of my turn 6. Silas's movement 6, and the only thing that matters is the charge into the Iron Orcs with the Dread Knights and the Dread Prince. 2 of the Dread Knights would succumb to the dangerous terrains. End of Silas's turn 6, and you can see that the Dread Knights and the Dread Prince have finished off and caught the Iron Orcs. The first army to do so, I believe, in combat certainly. I think the Iron Orcs have been whittled away by a ridiculous amount of shooting once before, but that's the first time that they've actually been properly beaten in combat. So mistakes I've made. I think it was risky moving the Iron Orcs in that direction, because the Iron Orcs are worth 600 points, and the unit also houses my general who has the Crown of Autocracy, so that the loss of that unit is 1,000 points. So it was a risky business moving them in that direction, although in truth, I mean, they're Iron Orcs, you know. I would probably do the same thing again, but perhaps I needed to be smarter about it. I didn't go in with my Gargantula because I didn't want him to be able to issue a duel, and my Goblin King be unable to refuse it. But I suppose if I'd have been smart about it, I could have tried maybe to work it so that the Iron Orcs and the Gargantula hit the unit at the same time, and then I could accept the duel with my Iron Orc champion, perhaps. Anyway, it is what it is. So most of Silas's, well, not most, but a good chunk of Silas's points are actually in these two units, and what I've done is shave off the rest of his entire army. But the loss of 1,000 points at the end there has actually made it an 11-9 in Silas's favour, but then I claim the secondary objective, which makes it a 12-8 in my favour at the end of the game. So that's it, guys. Shorter battle report than usual. I'm going to try and keep them a bit shorter in the future. It makes them more watchable, I think. Right, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.